Good morning. I'm Pete Najarian. This is the take on this Wednesday. Yes, it's hump day and an interesting day yesterday leading into today. Obviously, each and every day is always interesting how it leads in. And we talk about earnings season all the time. And we are getting towards the tail end of that earnings season, but also getting ourselves towards Christmas season as well. So it never ends. It's always something. We had a little bit of a divergence yesterday in terms of how fast things were going to work, but I'll tell you a little bit about that. I'm taking a look at the Dow. We were up triple digits almost immediately. We started off strong. We continued to be strong. We were up over a couple of hundred points to the upside, but in that final 90 minutes or so, we did lose about 100 points off of where we were at that time and finished the day still up, but up about 55 points on the Dow. Now, on the other side of things, take a look over at the NASDAQ. It kind of started off a little bit slow. It started to accelerate. We were up triple digits, up over 110 points or more by midday, and just sort of coasted the rest of the day, finishing the day up about 120 points, only about 80 points off of those all-time highs for the NASDAQ. So still within a very, very short distance of a lot of these all-time highs, even with some of the pullbacks that we have seen. Crude continues to be in that area somewhere between, call it 79 and maybe 81. We were up towards 85. We pulled back, and we've been kind of down here since. And yesterday, about 80.60 is about where we were. I look over at the volatility index. It's gotten more and more constricted, a little bit tighter all the time. 16 to 17 is pretty much the range. We finished the day out about 1630 yesterday for the volatility index, and the 10-year, don't even need to talk about it. It's basically right where it's been. We talk about it all the time. Somewhere near 155. We're a little bit higher than that, right around 1.6. We did get a little bit of a pop and kind of holding on to that, but that's very little, and that's about where we find ourselves right now. Volumes continue to be absolutely on fire. 41.5 million contracts yesterday. The leader, Lucid. Now, we don't talk about that very often, but we see the EV space, and we talk about that. We've talked about how so much of what we have been seeing, and I've said this over the last 2-3 weeks, not just here, but also on the halftime report and Fast Money, the transition we have seen from energy, far less in the energy space hitting than we had been, which was a daily, multiple different names, all kinds of different parts of the energy space. We have not been seeing that same sort of a deal, but we've certainly been seeing the EV space in every way you can imagine, from the batteries, obviously, to lithium, to you name it, we see it, and those automakers themselves. So Lucid and Tesla. Lucid about 1.5 million contracts yesterday, Tesla about 1.3 million. We also had Microsoft a little bit over 1 million contracts, and then throw in Apple right around 1 million contracts. So that's kind of the makeup of where we were yesterday as far as some of the leadership of some of these volumes. Consumer discretion certainly did stand out. That's about where we were for our right now for earnings season. A little bit of ups and downs even within that space in terms of margins and what people are looking for, and that's certainly being a determining factor in a lot of what we are looking at as far as, are they going to continue to move and add to some of the gains that we've seen this year, or a little bit of a pullback. We saw both yesterday. Walmart, a little bit more of a focus on margins. That was in the negative. But you look over at Home Depot and the focus on some of that growth and the big ticket items and how they have been able to continue to be very, very strong and powerful. And their margins are actually very strong because they were able to pass those along as well. That had a great day yesterday. Matter of fact, Home Depot yesterday up about 6%. We had Qualcomm up about 8%. Some of the leaders that we have there, Lowe's piggybacking on to the Home Depot numbers, that was up about 4% yesterday. We had that nice big flip, and Tesla once again adding about 4%. Peloton was a surprise yesterday, as that was actually up about 15% yesterday, along with AMD chipping in. So we've had a lot of different areas of the marketplace that are definitely participants to the upside. A little bit of a drag yesterday came from some of the cruise ships, some of the airlines, certainly definitely a little bit of a drag there. Throw in Boeing just for a little measure, down about 3%. And as I mentioned, Walmart as well. But we did have semiconductors really pushing to the upside, and another nice day there, up over 1%. So as we get into today, we have that backdrop. We look over at crude. Crude was in the 79s early. It's popped a little bit above 80 and then pulled back. So call it somewhere right in that same very tight range that we've been talking about. Tight range still for the 10-year. Volatility index still hanging around that low 16s. As a matter of fact, constricting even more in this first hour of trade, although we'll start to see that move to the upside if we continue to move the way we are right now. I take a look over at the Dow. Dow down about 50 early, down about 60, then about 80, a little over 100. Last I looked, down about 150 points on the Dow, and starting to drag a little bit more on the NASDAQ as well. As we started off pretty strong, tech stocks definitely leading the way along with some of those semiconductors, but a little bit of an easing back and some of that consumer discretionary. That still stands out, up about 1% as we've gotten more and more into the earnings of many of these various names. Semiconductors down today about 0.5%, tech down about 0.5%. So a little bit of a drag. What's really dragging on the Dow, though, is financials. And especially when you look over and you see a name like Visa, and Visa down about 5%. Now, there's some concerns about Amazon and some of the payment structure going forward, and a lot of that playing into why we're seeing that kind of pressure on Visa specifically. Target down about 4%. A lot of that having to do with some of the disappointment. Great numbers, but some of the disappointment in terms of the margins themselves. And that's something that we've seen a little bit out of Walmart as well. But I will remind you this, Target 1 week ago was trading exactly where it is today. It had that week, it had that run up with a lot of the other areas of the marketplace, specifically consumer discretion that were pulling to the upside. And now it's pulled right back down to that level from a week ago. So still very, very strong for Target. Peloton, that's down about 4% today. I'll tell you what, where we're seeing a lot of the real strength, TJX, take a look at Ross Stores. TJX up about 10%, Ross Stores up about 7%. Tesla with a nice turn, that was up about 3%. Those Chinese names back under pressure once again. Take a look at Baidu and JD and PDD. All of those names under a little bit of pressure today. And so you see some of the Chinese making that step back, like we talk about oftentimes, where they one step forward, one step back. Sometimes it's one up and two down. That's the way it's really been all year for some of these Chinese names. So got two unusuals for you, and then we're out of here. Home Depot's number one. Stock trading right around $395. Now, we talk about Home Depot and their earnings yesterday. We talk about Lowe's, their earnings, and some of the powerful numbers that were able to be put up. They're looking for the November 400 calls to come into play. Stock trading right around $395. 4,400 of these November 400 calls. They only have 3 days. That's today, tomorrow, and Friday for these to make sure that that stock can get up and through that area and get these options moving to the upside. They were bought for about $1 up to a little over $2 for these options. So that's something to keep a close eye on as we're looking for maybe a little bit more of that breakout that we oftentimes see. A lot of the time we talk about when you do break out to new highs, maybe there's about 10% move to the upside. That's what somebody looks like they're playing on right now here at Home Depot. Secondly, I've got U.S. Steel. We haven't talked about this one in a little while. Stock trading just a little bit north of $25 a share. We got a buyer of 6,500, getting a little extra time. The November 26th expiring options. These are the 27 strike calls, 25 cents up to about, call it 35 cents. 6,500 of these calls being bought today. So that's something that stands out as well. Folks, have a great day of trading. I hope you have a wonderful day. I've got a fairly open schedule today, so I will be trading like a madman from here in the office. Looking forward to that. Have a great day of trading, folks.